I should have known something was wrong when he started locking his phone at night. It wasn't just the secrecy, or how quickly he yanked his screen away if I happened to glance over. It was the way he stopped looking me in the eye. The way he smiled like I was a stranger. My husband, Jason, the man I built my life with, had started hiding pieces of himself, and I was about to find out why. For 8 years, I was the woman behind the curtain. The planner, the homemaker, the backbone. Jason chased his career and I chased everything else. Birthday parties, mortgage payments, emotional support, home-cooked meals. He'd leave for work with a kiss on the cheek and return late, mumbling about meetings that ran long or deadlines that couldn't wait. I believed him. God, I believed him. Until the day I found a pink receipt in his car. It was wedged between the passenger seat and the console like it didn't matter. I pulled it out, confused. It was for a spa treatment. A couple's massage, facial, champagne, and strawberries. Total. $620. I blinked at the date. Last Friday. I had been homesick that day, curled up with soup and tissues, while he claimed he was at a conference. My stomach dropped. That was the day everything changed. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed proof, not suspicion. That night I smiled. Kissed him like I always did. And while he showered I started looking. I bought a hidden camera online. A small, unnoticeable one disguised as a charger. I plugged it into the outlet in our living room, the room where he always took his late-night calls. I ordered 2 more, placing one in his home office and another in the garage, where he sometimes disappeared with his phone for hours. Within 3 days I had footage that shattered me. He was talking to someone named Stacy. First it was innocent enough. Flirty laughter, soft talking. Then I saw her. She came to the house while I was out running errands. The footage caught her walking in, holding a bottle of wine and wearing heels too high for comfort. Jason greeted her with the kind of hug he hadn't given me in years. They kissed. They laughed. They made themselves comfortable on my couch. My couch. I watched it all, shaking, heart racing, trying not to scream. But I didn't cry. Not yet. Because I wasn't done. I copied the footage to a flash drive and hid it under the drawer liner of my vanity. Then I kept filming. Every lie he told, I tracked it. Every time he said he was working late, I watched him pour wine for Stacy instead. Every promise he made to me, I held it against the betrayal playing out in high definition. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to slap him, scream, throw everything he owned onto the front lawn and burn it. But I didn't. Because I had a better plan. Jason had a big promotion coming up. He worked in real estate development, and his company was merging with a larger firm. He'd been working overtime to look impressive, even inviting his boss over for dinner to show off his perfect life. So I made myself the perfect wife. I cooked a 5-course meal, cleaned the house until it sparkled, dressed in his favorite color, and poured his boss a glass of red wine the second he stepped in. I laughed at Jason's jokes, complimented his work and played my part to perfection. His boss seemed impressed. Jason beamed at me like I was his secret weapon. I was. Just not in the way he thought. That night after his boss left, he was all over me. He said he hadn't felt this close to me in months. Said we should take a weekend trip, maybe rekindle what we had. I almost laughed. Instead I smiled. The next day I went to a lawyer. She reviewed the footage and raised her eyebrows. "This is airtight," she said. "You could clean him out." But I didn't want his money. I wanted his pride. Jason had one weakness. His image. He cared more about being respected than being loved. He built his career on charm and clean suits. If word got out that he was cheating, not just on his wife but during a crucial merger, it would crush him. So I made a plan. One that would hit him where it hurt most. First, I booked a weekend at the same spa from the receipt. For 2. But I didn't go with him. I sent the footage to Stacy's husband. Yes. She was married too. Turns out he didn't know either. His name was Brandon, and when he saw the videos he went completely still. "This is my living room," he said softly, pointing to a clip. "That's my shirt she's wearing." We met for coffee and talked for 3 hours. We weren't planning revenge, not yet. We were grieving. Swapping stories. Sharing timelines. He told me how Stacy started working late, how she kept her phone face down, how their daughter cried when her mom missed another recital. By the end of the conversation, we were both angry enough to do something about it. And we did. On the day of Jason's big merger announcement, he stood in front of his entire team to deliver a speech. Cameras were rolling. The company was live-streaming the event for stakeholders and press. That's when the screen behind him flickered, and the footage played. The living room, the couch, the wine, the kiss. Stacy. The room went dead silent. Jason turned confused, then horrified. His face drained of color. Someone from PR scrambled to unplug the projector. But it was too late. People had their phones out. His boss was staring at him with wide, stunned eyes. I watched it all from home. Jason came back to the house that night, furious. He screamed, demanded to know what I had done. I didn't flinch. I handed him the divorce papers and the flash drive. You can keep the house, I said. I already moved out. He begged, apologized, swore he could fix it. But the footage had already made its rounds. His boss put him on indefinite leave. The merger was delayed. Stacy's husband filed for full custody. And me? I walked away. But the story doesn't end there. Because Jason wasn't done trying to get back at me. He had one more trick up his sleeve. And I was ready for it. I woke up the next morning still shaken by the footage. The images of my husband, my own husband, smiling at another woman, touching her like he used to touch me, replayed in my mind like a nightmare on loop. But the worst part wasn't even what he did. It was how easily he did it. Like I didn't matter. Like the vows we made meant nothing. I didn't go to work. I called in sick, knowing full well I wasn't going to get anything done in the state I was in. Instead, I spent the day rewatching the footage, taking notes, and quietly planning. There was no more denial left in me. Now it was about control, getting it back. Piece by piece. By noon, I'd already made 3 phone calls. One to a divorce lawyer my friend Angela had used when she split from her manipulative ex. Another to a locksmith. And the third to my bank. I wasn't going to let Tyler keep pretending everything was okay while living this double life. When Tyler came home that evening, he acted like nothing had changed. He tossed his keys into the ceramic bowl by the door, kissed me on the cheek, like a stranger, and headed into the kitchen to grab a beer. "How was your day?" he asked casually. I looked up from the couch, faking a soft smile. "Uneventful. Yours?" He shrugged. "Same. Just meetings." I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded and turned back to the TV, pretending to be immersed in the cooking show on screen. Let him lie. Let him get comfortable. The next few days were a balancing act. Pretending to be the same, doting wife while quietly building my exit plan. I moved funds into a private account. I took pictures of every document I could find, bank statements, car titles, even his 401k details. The lawyer said I had to be smart, strategic. Catching him cheating wasn't enough. I needed financial leverage. Proof of misappropriated funds. Proof he used marital assets on someone else. So I followed the money. The camera had caught him handing her something. A small box. Jewelry, maybe. 2 days later, I checked our shared credit card. Sure enough, there was a $1,200 charge at a boutique jewelry store downtown. Gotcha. By the end of the week, I had a full folder, timestamps, receipts, screenshots, and copies of text messages I'd retrieved from his iPad, which was still linked to our shared Apple ID. He wasn't even smart enough to disconnect it. I also changed the locks. Quietly, one afternoon while he was working late, which probably meant he was with her. I had the new keys made and hid the originals in my purse. My lawyer and I scheduled the first in-person consultation. I wore a plain shirt and jeans. Nothing flashy, just composed and steady. I laid out everything. She nodded as she flipped through the evidence. "You've got a strong case. With the documentation of spending on the mistress, plus the emotional distress caused, we can aim for a strong settlement. Maybe even full spousal support." I left the office feeling lighter. Still devastated, but no longer powerless. My grief had become fuel. That weekend, Tyler suggested we go to the lake house. "Just you and me," he said. "We haven't had time alone in a while." I nearly laughed. "Sure," I said sweetly. "That sounds nice." The lake house had always been our peaceful place. Quiet, serene, tucked in the woods. Now it was going to be the final stage of my operation. On the drive there, he played his favorite playlist. I noticed how he kept checking his phone. probably waiting for a message from her. At the lake house, he unpacked the car while I went inside and double-checked the camera I'd planted in the living room the night before. Yes, I'd made a solo trip the day before to check the pipes. In reality, I set up the camera and a backup voice recorder. After dinner, we sat on the couch with a glass of wine. Tyler leaned in and started kissing my neck. I gently pulled back. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," he said, confused. "Do you love me?" He blinked. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one." He set his wine glass down. "Of course I do. What's going on?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Then why are you sleeping with someone else?" Silence. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about." I reached into my bag and pulled out the small USB. "I have footage. I have everything. Her name, where she works, even what you bought her with our money." His mouth opened, then shut again. He looked terrified. "You recorded me?" he finally whispered. "Yes. And now you're going to listen carefully, Tyler." He stood up, trying to look intimidating. "You're insane. This is illegal. You can't." "I can." And I did. I stood too, taller than I'd ever felt before. "And if you don't want this sent to your boss, your parents, or her husband," yes, I found out she's married too, "you're going to agree to the following terms." He sank back onto the couch. I laid it all out. Full ownership of the house. The car in my name. A cash settlement. No contest in the divorce. No custody of the dog. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, stunned. "You've got until tomorrow to think about it. Say no, and everyone gets a copy of the footage." He didn't sleep that night. I did. The next morning, he signed the papers I'd brought with me. My lawyer would finalize them on Monday. We drove back in silence. Tyler didn't touch his playlist this time. At home, he moved his things into the guest room. I didn't offer him dinner. By midweek, he was gone. I stood in the living room looking around. Everything felt different. Not because he wasn't there, but because I finally was. Me. Present. Whole. The footage had broken something in me, but not beyond repair. It had also built something. Strength. Fire. Clarity. The only thing I had left to do was decide how far I wanted to go. Because part of me still wanted everyone to know what he'd done. And part of me wanted to simply vanish into my new life. Wealthier, wiser, and wonderfully free. But I had one more card to play. And it was going to be perfect. I couldn't sleep the night I made my decision. The rain tapped gently on the roof like a ticking clock. And every second felt like it pushed me closer to the edge. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about every lie, every betrayal, and every time I had made myself smaller just to keep the peace. No more. By the next morning, I was already in motion. I called Jillian, my lawyer, first. "He forged your signature on those papers, Allie. That's fraud. I can bring in a forensic document examiner. He won't know what hit him." "Do it." I'd waited too long. Now it was my turn to hit back. Over the next 2 weeks, Jillian gathered every shred of evidence I had. The forged consent forms, the recordings of him admitting to draining our joint account, and even the message threads between him and Natalie. We filed a motion to freeze our marital assets immediately. That meant Travis couldn't touch the money he was planning to use for his fancy lake house, his new truck, or even the boat he bragged about. He got served the papers the same day he was meeting with a real estate agent. The look on his face when he came storming into my temporary apartment? Priceless. "You freezing my money now? You've lost your damn mind." "No, Travis. I just finally found it." He laughed bitterly. "You think this changes anything?" I tilted my head. "You're about to find out how much it changes." The divorce trial started a month later. Travis didn't know I had his forged signature lined up next to a certified analysis proving it wasn't mine. He didn't know I had texts from Natalie talking about their vacation, with timestamps that aligned perfectly with the week he was supposed to be on a business trip. And he definitely didn't know I had security footage from the hospital showing he never showed up to sign the surgical cancellation form in person, meaning he lied to get my surgery canceled remotely. When all of it hit the court, it was like watching a house of cards collapse. The judge wasn't amused. "Mr. Jensen, not only did you act with financial malice, but you also committed fraud by canceling a necessary medical procedure for your wife. You prioritized a boat over her life. That is beyond contemptible. He was ordered to pay all court fees, repay the $20,000 he took, and give up his claim to our home and the lake property we bought as a marital asset. And Natalie? She was in court too, for her own fraud case, tied to a completely separate mess involving a fake insurance claim. I didn't even need to lift a finger for that one. Karma did its job. 6 months later, I stood on the dock he wanted so badly. Only now it was mine. I didn't keep the lake house, I sold it. But I took one last walk on that dock before signing the final sale papers. Funny thing is, I used the money to pay for my surgery, the one he canceled. And then I took the rest and started over in a new city. Clean slate, clean heart, and peace. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like screaming matches or grand explosions. Sometimes it looks like quiet dignity, steady paperwork, and walking away with your head held high while the other person scrambles to hold on to a life built on lies. I didn't just take back what was mine. I built something better. If you felt this story in your soul, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support means everything, and trust me, more shocking stories are coming soon.